What's happening, YouTube? Paul Ramirez here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, and thanks for tuning in. Today, we're going to be talking about the Boss MS3, my Boss MS3, and how I use it in a live setting. If you like this video and others on this channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Also, new videos are being uploaded weekly, so while you're at it, go ahead and hit that notification bell as well so that you don't miss a thing. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump into today's video of the Boss MS3.
All right, jumping into the video portion of it, just going to talk about how I mainly use this MS3 as a controller on this big board of mine. But I've also done some shows with this as a standalone rig, with an amp, of course. There's no emulation in this, but with plenty of internal effects, global noise suppression, assignable control features. This little unit, it's more than substantial for what I do. So let's go ahead and dive into this video. Just looking at a patch that I have here on one of my original tunes, Gypsy Woman. So if you see here, I'm in manual mode, the blue light, now, or memory mode, I'm sorry. So if I click memory mode, this button here, memory manual, now you'll see red lights. And also the screen changed here, letting me know that I'm in manual mode. So now, basically loop 3, which is my OCD here, I basically can turn that on and off, which I never do for this song. Switch number 2 engages the wah for my expression pedal that I use. Loop 3, or switch 3, is turning on and off the timeline, which I have it on for most of the song, and then at the end I turn it off. Loop 4 is set to a momentary switch, so it's activating a Leslie inside or rotary sim inside the Mobius. So let's go ahead and jump into this patch and figure out what's going on here to make all that happen. So once again, the blue light, we're in memory mode. Memory mode. And you can see, excuse me, I'm a little under the weather right now, so I know I'm sounding kind of sickly. But as you can see here, the patch name, Gypsy Woman, the name of the title of the song. So as soon as I start the song, I hit the memory manual button, and I'm in manual mode. And as we said before, I can turn on the wah pedal using my EB30. I can turn on and off the timeline with this, and this accesses the momentary. Leaving it pushed in accesses the rotary from the Mobius. As soon as I let go, it stops. So you have to remember too, I'm singing at the same time, so all this really helps. Okay, so let's dig in and find out what's going on. So we're going to hit the edit button. Okay, the first thing we see is the foot volume, which I'm using a Boss EB30, and in this particular patch, I'm not using it as a foot volume, more so as I'm using it as a wah. So effects 1, if we turn that on, there's our wah. Okay, so we enter that, you see that I have a crybaby wah, direct levels at 100, and effect levels at 100. Okay, and if I'm moving the EB30 right now, and you can see how it's affecting the PD positive. Okay, and that's pretty much it. That's all that's going on there. So the way we get to that is we go to effects 1, and you have this big menu here, defretter, sitar sim, all these different effects. Okay, graphic EQ, overdrive, distortion, wah, auto wah. So what I did was I went into wah and enter, and then you can set all your parameters from there. And that's that section of this patch. Moving on, let's turn that off. We can either turn that off with the on and off button, or since I've assigned switch 2, we can use switch 2 to turn it off as well. Now, the next pedal engaged in this patch is in loop 3, which is the OCD, and that's pretty much all you got to say about that. Next on is some noise suppression, and that's pretty much it, and no other internal effects in the Boss MS3 other than the wah, and that's it, just the wah and the noise suppression. So now we go into the control section of the menu. We hit enter again. Now let's see what's going on with the numbers. So this is basically the numbers for each foot switch 1 through 4. So when I enter foot switch number 1, you'll see that it's controlling loop 3 again, which is the OCD. Now once again, you'll see the action on and off, okay, toggle and moment. Everything's on toggle and on and off. So we'll exit that. In foot switch 2, in the manual mode, we have effects 1, which is the wah. Okay. Now number 3 and 4, okay, we have LED, and we assign it a MIDI function, and we'll get into the assign later down in this patch. Okay, so firing to the Strymon pedals. In switch 4, it's the same thing. However, you'll notice a difference. Instead of toggle, we're on momentary. So that's switch 4 again, that if I press it, it activates the rotary from the Mobius. Once I let it go, it deactivates it. Next in the path, we have expression 1, which is our Boss EV30. And as I mentioned before, I've got that set to a wah. So if we enter, we have options here. We can turn it off. We can put it as a foot volume. We can have it as a wah and a pitch bend, which is where I have it. Now that's that. Now we go to our assigns section. This is where it gets interesting. So this is going to be the assigns for foot switch 3 and 4. So what this is doing, first you tell it on. It's telling you which foot switch, number 4, memory manual mode, current number, all that stuff. So we're on foot switch 3, okay? And we're telling it can be anything in this menu, from internal mods, which you have 2 sections. You have 2 effects sections with a whole bunch of internal effects and such. So as you can see, the list goes on and on. However, we're using simply MIDI. So we're going to tell this to fire to channel 2, which is what my Strymon here is on. So basically the Strymons, the Mobius is on channel 1, the timeline is on channel 2, and the Big Sky is on channel 3. So by this being channel 2, it's telling it to fire a CC number of 102, which is basically bypass or engage on the Strymon pedals. I don't know what it may be on another pedal that you may have that's not Strymon. I think all the CC numbers are different, but I'm not sure. Since what I do know are the Strymon pedals, I can't comment for the other ones. But that's your number for the bypass to turn on and off. So when I hit the switch, it's going to either turn it on or off. Same thing with assign 2 here. Now this is saying switch 4 over here, and this is momentary. Once again, press on it, let go, instead of click and then click again. Once again, it's controlling MIDI, and as we've stated before, channel 1 is for the Mobius over here. So once again, the same CC number, because all I wanted to do is engage or bypass. So it's going to be CC number 102. That's it for the assigns. Moving on to the MIDI section. Under MIDI patch 1, that's going to be channel 1 for the Mobius. That's how I've arranged them. You can arrange this however. I could have channel 3 for the Big Sky on patch 1 or channel 2, just so I can remember and it doesn't overwhelm me, and it makes sense, and I can get into a rhythm with this thing, with programming it. MIDI patch 1 will be channel 1 the Mobius, channel 2 timeline, and so on and so on. So here we go. We're going to enter MIDI patch 1, and as you can see, we're on channel 1. Okay, now here is basically telling it which preset we're going to hit on the Mobius. And on this particular preset, I have this hitting Bank 96A, which is a Leslie on the Mobius. Now, this right here is telling it, once again, the number 102, the CC number, that's telling it to bypass or engage. Now, what this CC1 value is telling it is 0 is telling it disengage. So with this 102 on or off, that's telling it off. If I turn this all the way up, that's telling it to engage. That's turning it up. Now, what's cool about this is whenever I click on this preset from another preset, if it's in memory mode, the blue mode like this. Now, if once I click to this preset, and if I'm using the Mobius on another, the previous patch, then as soon as I click on this, it shuts the Mobius off, which is really cool. Once again, that's the main thing about this. It's controlling the whole board. It's saving you some taps. Same thing for patch 2. It's channel 2 for the timeline. We've got it going to 91A, which is a tape echo. You had about 390 milliseconds. On this one, same thing, 102, bypass or engage. But since the volume is all the way up, we're going to go ahead and engage. So when that preset comes on, the Mobius doesn't turn on, but the timeline is automatically on, whether it was on in the previous patch or not. Moving on to MIDI patch 3, that's going to be channel 3, which is the big sky. I have it set to this preset, which is basically 42A in the big sky. Once again, that's 102 and 127, so it's telling it to come on as soon as the patch is turned on. And that's pretty much it. I mean, this thing right here, there's a learning curve to this, but once you figure it out, you can assign these buttons to do pretty much whatever in any patch. You know, you can create multiple patches for one song, or in this particular case, one patch for one song. I even have a patch for when I'm doing jams and such, where, you know, I can get by with, like, for instance, this one. It's got basically an EQ. I'm accessing loop 1, which is the compressor over here, which is basically acting as a boost. I can also turn on and off the Chula off to the side and use that. And then I've got a clean delay. I've also got a Leslie and a Univibe. So there's options in that one patch. You can get by through a gig on that one patch. But if you can customize it and have multiple sounds, multiple delays, specifically timed to your song, and tremolos and all that good stuff, why not? So let's plug this into an amp and play through everything we just talked about and see how it all works.
Okay, let's go ahead and play through this patch and see what she does. Everything we just talked about a little bit earlier. So the first thing I'm going to do is disengage the timeline, and then I'm going to go ahead and turn off the big sky and the disengage loop 3, which is the OCD, so we can just hear the amp, how that sounds. This is my guitar turned all the way up on my Mexican Fender Stratocaster with Seymour Duncan's. Check out the description box for the link, and you can check those out yourself. So here's just the amp and the guitar. Okay, so that's just the amp right there. Now if I turn on the OCD with that, you know, you can control it from the volume. So what I'm doing is I leave that on the whole time, and then I just control it from the volume, rolling on and off and such. So that's usually my rhythm right there. Now keep in mind that's just the OCD running through the wah amp. Now, if I turn that off and just go back clean, go back to the OCD and roll off the volume, sounds a lot fatter. Just sounds, so I like just controlling it from the volume and not having to turn it on or off. So let's go ahead and throw the reverb on with that. So this is basically a plate reverb in the big sky, and it sounds like this. Notice the longer decay. It's a little exaggerated because the preset I'm coming off prior to this is from an intro that I do to this song, and it's got a lot of reverb and delay, and it's pretty washy. So going into this, if it's too dry, it's such a dramatic change where if I go into this and not as wet as the previous patch, but still a little bit exaggerated, so to speak, just to kind of pretty much the main sound of the song. Also, I can turn on the timeline by engaging switch 3 on the MS3. So that sounds like this. So I also have that preset in the timeline set with the expression pedal. So if I go to the toe, there's quite a few repeats, at least 18 or 20 or so. And if I go to the heel, so that's where it stays the whole song. Now, when I'm switching between presets, you can see the Strymons doing different things. So right now, in this preset, I have the Big Sky and the timeline on. In this one, I have only the Big Sky. Then on the next one, which is a Pink Floyd patch, I've got all 3 Strymons engaged. So that was the beauty of that, the CC command and the value 0 and 127, as mentioned previously. So when I click on that preset, you can see it engages the tape echo as well as the reverb, and loop 3 is engaged, which is the OCD. Now going into memory manual mode here, also we talked about switch 4 being a momentary switch. Now if I let that go, so it's nice to have that, you're singing a line, you don't want to do 2 clicks, it's a lot easier to just hang in there. Also we have a wah in here, so at the end, I mentioned I turn off the timeline, and so it goes into this. And that wah comes in. Thanks again for watching this video. I hope you got something from it. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment, and I'll get back to them as soon as possible. Thanks again for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.